Good morning, this is Eric Auger broadcasting from my rental car since I had a fender bender with my car and since in the shop now being repaired. But I wanted to tell you a story today, interesting story about a couple of clients of mine, Bill and Andy, that I met probably about 5 years ago now. And Bill and Andy had a beautiful house on the east side that they wanted to sell, and they'd been trying to sell it. They had gone through, I think, 3 real estate agents before they came across me. Bill and Andy are kind of a very interesting people. They had that house, beautiful single-story home with a swimming pool in a gated community, very nicely kept. And they were passionate of art. That was their thing. And in their house, the first time I went there, it was kind of a museum. You had all those pieces of antique from all over the world, mostly from Europe. All original pieces, beautiful paintings, beautiful furniture, beautiful ornaments, and it was everywhere in the house. It was kind of a bit overwhelming when you walk in the house, because unless you're an art lover, it's kind of like distracting. It was very nicely done, but kind of distracting. And they really wanted to sell their house, and they had bad luck with it. The agents they had hired before me, unfortunately, couldn't get the job done. I can't even remember exactly what happened, but the bottom line is, they just couldn't do it. So they came across me through referrals. They were introduced to me by a friend of theirs, and I went to their house. We toured the house, and the first thing we did is we did an inventory of what the house was like, what was right, what needed to be changed, what needed to be improved. There was, of course, a lot of changes to do with the antique to kind of tone that down a little bit so that people could really appreciate the house instead of appreciating the antique. But that's not the important part. You see, when I talked to Bill and Andy, their goal was to sell the house, sell the antique, and what they wanted to do is travel the world. That was their big dream, and that dream had been on hold for more than a year because the house couldn't sell. So we did what we had to do in order to prepare the house, in order to price the house correctly so that it attracts buyers, and we put it on the market, and because that house was so unique and special, it took a little bit of time to sell. But all during that time, when people were coming to look at the house and were not making offer, I made a point to stay in touch with them every single week and tell them, look, okay, this is the number of showings we've had, this is what the people have said, and this is what we need to do. So little by little, we tweaked things to the point where we finally found that buyer. That buyer was a unique guy. He managed energy funds. He was self-employed, so he kind of had a very unique situation. So we went through the motions. We did the inspection. We started. He started his loan process. All the motions for about a month. That's about the time it takes. And at the very last minute, their lender said, sorry, we can't do the loan. And the reason was that the bank wanted him to provide some documents about what he does. The problem is that those documents were by nature confidential and could not be disclosed to anybody. It would have been a violation of whatever organization oversees what he does, so he couldn't do it. And at the last minute, the lender said, no, sorry, can't do the loan, sorry, we're pulling out. Bill and Andy were devastated because they felt that they were so close to their goal of being able to free up all that money so that they can travel the world. They were really down about it. Luckily, I had a connection with what we call a private lender, who is basically, it is an individual that does mortgages, but it's not a bank. They do that at an individual level. And what I did is I introduced that guy to the other agent who represented the buyer, And the guy came through the house with the agent. They talked to the buyer. Things were working well. Came to the house, look at it. They did an appraisal, and when all hope was lost, that guy came and just saved the day. And they said, "Good, I'll do the loan. Fine. Let's go do the paperwork." So we did the paperwork, the house closed, they cashed in their money, and they went on traveling the world. And I kind of lost touch with these people, with Bill and Andy, for a while. I mean, I called them on the phone just to check in and say hi. But when you talk to somebody on the phone every now and then and say hi, it's not the same as if you were having a face-to-face conversation with them. It's kind of like a friendship. If you don't invest in it, if you don't invest yourself and your time and your interest in people, the relationship dies. And so I kind of felt bad that I had let all that time go without seeing them after. It was kind of like saying, okay, your house is sold, I got my check, now I'm gone. And this is not how I wanted to be perceived. This is not how I work. And so I called them the other day and said, "Hey, Bill and Andy, this is Eric. Why don't we have coffee together?" And so we did. We met at a Starbucks, and we sat down, had a cup of coffee, and they spent a whole hour, telling me about their travel throughout the world. And the stories that they were telling me were amazing. They visited 30 countries. They did 2 or 3 cruises, but total visited 30 countries in 5 years with the money from the sale of their house. Now, I don't have to tell you, they were super, super happy. And it was just fascinating to hear all the stories and the things that they've discovered. Bill is an architect, so every time he would go to a city like Prague or Vienna, he would be passionate about the architecture and visiting the city and discovering it. And I could really tell, as I was talking to them, as they were telling me about their travel, I could see the sparkle in their eye, the happiness that they were experiencing because they were able to do all that. So my point in all this is that, oftentimes when selling a house, somebody wants to sell a house, it's much more than just selling the house. There is a goal behind that. There is something that they really, really, really want to do. And as an agent, if we position ourselves as just the guy selling the house, we can have some success. But if we position ourselves as the guy who's going to help them accomplish exactly what they want to do, because I know it's important to them, then we make such a great impact on the life of these people that it is changed forever. In their case, they were tied to that house that they no longer wanted to be tied to, and they were able to travel the world, 30 countries in 5 years. They were telling me all about it. So my point is that, besides just selling a house, I see myself as the guy who helps people make their dream come true, whatever it may be. I've had other situations where people were buying houses and they were telling me in the conversation that they were the very first people in their family to ever own a house. That's important. That's much more important than just opening doors and writing offers. You see, when you go into a business relationship like that with the clear understanding of what's really, really making these people vibrate, it becomes personal. It becomes a challenge. You want to help them get there. You just want to be that person who's going to put all the pieces of the puzzle together so that they can actually do it. So my point is that we are much more than real estate agents. We are people who help people make dreams come true. And something that really touched me happened the next day after I had coffee with them. Bill and Andy sent me an email the next day, and they said, "Eric, we still can't thank you enough for what you did for us, for saving that deal at the very last minute and helping us making our dream come true. But more importantly, because you took such a personal interest in what we were doing, we consider you a friend." And when I read that email, that completely made my day. And it really gave me sorry, there's some words I can't say. Re-energized me. If Dave, if you're watching that, you know what I'm talking about. It re-energized me. It gave me a boost of happiness and just gratitude for everything that I do. Not only was I able to get them to travel, but along the way, because I really, really cared about these people more than I care about their house, I became their friend. And so that was a lesson for me that I'm not about to forget. And that's what I wanted to share with you, is that, you know, when you do things with heart, when you do things with caring, when you do things with really helping people getting where they want to go, you create relationships, and those relationships, if you cultivate them, turns into friendships. And when you have a client who calls you a friend, you know you've done something right. So I'm not telling you that because I want to ring my bell and tell you I'm the best. It's just that it made me so happy for me to read in their email that they considered me a friend. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I hope you found that story interesting. And in everything you do, whether you're self-employed, working for somebody else, helping people on the phone, whatever you do, take a genuine, caring interest in what these people really, really, really want. Connect with it and do everything you can to get it for them. And these people will never forget you. And this is the best gift that they could have given me, is their friendship. I'll see you later for another episode of the Home Selling Podcast, and I wish you all a fantastic day.